Nearly 100 shootings in just 31 days. The city of Portland is dealing with a huge increase in gun violence a month after the Police Bureau's gun violence reduction team was cut, and also while officers respond to continued protests. Fox 12's Sarah HURWITZ spoke with the Portland police chief today to find out what the plan is to address the increase in violence.
Well, yeah, today Chief Lovell said that he feels that the absence of the gun violence reduction team and limited staffing resources is contributing to that dramatic increase in shootings for the month of July. Now, take a look here at some of the numbers. Today, Portland police updated us with new numbers about that recent spike in violence. They say just in July, there were 99 shootings. That's compared to just 35 shootings during July of last year. And in all, 38 people were shot, 34 were men, and a little more than 66% of them were African American. We also know that in the entire year of 2019, there were 388 shootings in Portland. So far this year, there have been 366, and we're only halfway through 2020.
Our approach is really to respond to criminal activity.
Today, Chief Lovell talked about the challenges the Bureau is facing with the huge increase in violence across the city. One of those is nightly protests across Portland. This rise in violence also comes the same month that PPB's gun violence reduction team was disbanded. As part of the police reform, Mayor Ted Wheeler announced that the team would dissolve on July 1st. One-on-one, I asked Chief Lovell what his plans are to help stop the violence without that team. Are you guys not able to do that community outreach because you just don't have that team?
It's more difficult because the officers that did that work, they had great relationships with people. I think that's what's really lost, and that's the hardest thing to convey to people, but also to kind of wrestle with. And it's like, that officer who was the person who would go to the hospital when there's a shooting, or go with probation and parole when they're going to do a home visit with someone they, feel might be in danger or maybe involved in a way that needs interdiction. That's not there. They're off literally working a patrol, maybe a different shift, maybe a different part of town. But they still have those relationships and they still get those phone calls. But it's hard to say, well, you still need to respond to this and still take the calls in your district at the same time.
So what are the efforts that are being done for community outreach without that team?
So right now, I've dedicated a sergeant and 6 officers to assist detectives who are doing the homicide investigations. So they have the ability now, because they're focused on it full time, to do some of that outreach. But like I said earlier, the Office of Violence Prevention, they relied heavily on the interaction with GVRT, the data, the ability to call a sergeant and say, hey, what's going on here? Or hey, I have some outreach workers over here. Can we get an officer by? Or hey, there's these funerals coming up this weekend. Can we coordinate this way? So I think having that temporary resource assigned is going to be beneficial, but I really do feel this work is important enough where it needs a structure in place to do it full time.
And Chief Lovell said without that team, which serves as a deterrent, some people may feel that nobody is watching and that more people may feel like they can be out with guns. Reporting live here in downtown Portland, Sarah HURWITZ, Fox 12 Oregon.